He sat me down and he told me, Parth, we don't consider mountaineering as a sport and we don't consider you mountaineers as athletes. For us, sports is only what is in Olympics right now. For them, they were only supporting athletes and games who are into Olympics.
Parth Upadhyaya fulfilled his 9-year-long dream of successfully scaling Mount Everest summit on May 23, 2019. As a professional mountaineer who has climbed many high peaks, he often deals with the gargantuan task of raising funds for mountaineering that is often not considered nor supported as a sport, but the wins are celebrated. He is currently preparing for his expedition to climb Mount Annapurna on March 24, 2021. Let's listen to his interesting stories during his climb, his grueling routine, and having the right mindset to conquer a mountain. I know you got into, mountaineering because you saw Arjun Vajpayee. He was the youngest
Oh
to scale the
yes.
mountain, Mount Everest.
Oh yes. Oh
Yeah.
yes.
But I know your first time you scaled was Mount Kalsubai in Maharashtra.
Absolutely. It's the highest peak of Maharashtra.
Yeah. So was that when you realized maybe your interest in it could actually be turned into a lifelong career?
Yes, if you want to, point at one particular instant, that was it absolutely. But the internal journey began ever since I was born, and
Okay.
in my school or in my classes, anywhere I went, I was never able to just I never felt at home. I was
Okay.
always lost. I was always lost, and 15 years into my life when I first went for my trek at Mount Kalsubai the story for people who don't know, after my board exams, I was just seeing a random news coverage and news पे आ रहा था about a 16-year-old boy from Noida who climbed Everest.
Yeah.
At that point, I knew nothing about Everest, or I didn't even know that people actually climb mountains. So I asked my father that, can I go hiking? Like, I want to, see how this is. Like, it seems exciting. So, so on the upcoming weekend, my father enrolled me for a trek to Mount Kalsubai Peak. It was summertime, so we hiked in the night because in the day it's very hot.
Okay, that's nice.
And just at the sunrise time, we reached the top and I saw the sun rising, and believe me, I had never seen anything much more beautiful than that up till that point in my life. And that's when I promised myself, just with this thought, that if the sunrise from this small hill is so beautiful, how would the sunrise look from the world's highest mountain, which Arjun was explaining? And I
Yeah.
promised myself that no matter what happens in this lifetime, I want to climb Everest and see that sunrise. It took me 9 years, but yeah, it did happen.
That's so nice. Was it hard to convince your parents?
Oh yes, that was another Everest altogether, which I had to climb first before going on the real expedition. But parents, they only want your well-being.
Yeah.
So I always say this thing to everyone who asks me. A lot of young people write to me on Instagram and say, "When I want to climb Everest," and but my parents, I'm not able to convince them, or they don't believe in me. See, I don't know what are their conditions in their house. Everybody is not the same.
Yeah.
But all I can say with 100% conviction is that if you cannot convince your own parents, you can never convince anyone else in the world. Because if you are able to convince your parents, that means your plan is foolproof. Because otherwise, there's no way of convincing your parents. And as far as my parents were concerned, there were two things which were bothering them. One was, how will I earn money while climbing mountains? Second, obviously the risk factor which comes into it.
Yeah.
So the money part, I asked them after my engineering that give me 6 months. I will prove it to you that I can at least fend for myself. So I started my own company called Dark Green Adventures, where we organize hiking and camping events.
Yeah.
So through that, I still run that company. So through that, I was able to earn enough at least to fend for myself. So that part for them was convinced. Okay, he's at least earning enough to make a living. And the risk part, obviously, you cannot fully convince mom, dad,
Yeah.
because it is risky when you go high up in the mountains. People don't come back, and that's a fact. Which so, but they saw that with what conviction I am preparing myself, and they knew that I have a sensible mind and I won't put myself into unnecessary risks. So the things which could go wrong from my side, that won't go wrong. They knew it.
Okay.
Other things which are anyways not in our control, right? So you can't.
True.
But my mom, dad, they are really. What do I say? When I was on Everest, they used to sleep every night peacefully, and that's so awesome. Like, I know so
Really?
many of my friends. Yes, yes, yes.
I was actually going to ask that. I was wondering what will this state of mind be when you're climbing a mountain?
Yeah, even I thought that, oh, they would be so tensed and this and that. But on the contrary, they slept every night very peacefully. Even when the final night, when I was climbing to the very top of the world, that night is probably the most dangerous night throughout the expedition. And I know a lot of friends who have climbed Everest, and jiske ghar wale, they are parents, their wives, or anyone, like that night they could not sleep.
Yeah.
And I thought ki even this would happen at my house, but no, like they were sleeping aram se. And I said to them this one thing, throughout the expedition you may not hear from me, and that's a good thing. Whenever something goes wrong, immediately you'll get the news. So no news was good news for them, so they were that way very peaceful.
That's good. Yeah. So, you started this, you convinced them. So from there, where do you go next?
Yeah, absolutely. So, climbing Everest, from the idea of climbing Everest at Mount Kalsubai was just a dream. And dream remains a dream unless it does not have a clear vision, right? So, obviously at that point I knew nothing about trekking or what mountaineering is all about. But then I started watching videos, I started reading books, I started speaking to experts of our field. And through that, I got to know that if I seriously want to do this, I need to go for my mountaineering courses.
Okay.
So there are basic and advanced mountaineering courses. These are the two basic courses that you must do in order to set foot into climbing real mountains. So parallelly, I was studying as well. Engineering and everything happened. So
Yeah.
through that, I didn't get. So these courses are 1 month long. So with my engineering and everything, and me being super bright kid who used to get just barely passing marks, it was very difficult for me to go about for a month in the mountains. But as soon as my engineering was over, I went for my basic mountaineering course. And it's a 28-day long course where you are surrounded by people who love mountains just like you. All day, all everyone talks about is the mountains. There are lectures conducted on the mountains. They show you movies, and so it's a complete paradise for people like me. And yeah, that's when I met this one instructor
Okay.
who had climbed Everest before. So through him, I got to know what exactly I need to do step by step in order to get to Everest. Because up till here, it was just a very obsessive goal that I had, but that goal had no direction in life.
Okay.
It was just all over the place. So through that instructor, I got to know specifically exact steps I need to take. Those steps were in three directions, I would say. First one is mountaineering experience, physical fitness, and fundraising. Because Everest is not a peak where you can just climb a few peaks here and there and go. No, you need immense amount of mountaineering experience, and of course fitness, and of course money,
Yeah.
which I'll come to. So after this basic course, I went about climbing significant peaks in the in the Indian Himalayas, in Himachal Pradesh, in Ladakh, in Uttarakhand, in Sikkim, in Nepal. Uh, I climbed a lot of peaks there to gain the necessary amount of mountaineering experience. And two, and a year or two later, after climbing peak after peak, peak after peak, peak after peak, I got back home in this very house, and I thought to myself, it's been 7 years now since I've been talking about Everest. And now I think I have enough mountaineering experience to give myself a realistic target to climb Everest and then go for it. So in
Okay.
2017, I decided that in 2019, which means 2 years from now, no matter what happens, I want to attempt Everest. I wouldn't say I want to climb Everest because that would be a very pompous thing to say. You don't know if you can climb it. There are many factors, but at least you get a chance to go there. So that's when the other two pillars, physical fitness and fundraising, that journey started from there. You know, there's a very famous saying in our field that to go to the top of the world, you need to build a top of the world mind and a top of the world body. So, you know, I don't consider mind and body as two different units. Unfortunately, for most people, these are two separate things. That's why all the friction that happens within, unless mind and body is in a sync,
True.
unless that happens, there would always be a friction within. So I had to work obviously on my body, but also on my mind. And you know, I'll explain how I did that. You know, the best kind of training for mountaineering is to actually be in the mountains. For example, if you want to be a swimmer, you should spend more time in the pool.
Yeah.
If you want to be a cyclist, more time on the cycle. You want to climb mountains, go in the goddamn mountains. Don't waste your time in the cities. It is as simple as that. So yes, keeping this in mind, I moved to the Sayadri Hills in a small village in the mountains. And for the next 2 years, each and every second of my day was invested in building myself up to a level where I am ready physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. These are four dimensions
Okay.
which needs to be at top of the game for you to go there. So I shifted there, and that's when the a whole new journey for me started. So I would just take you through a day in my life. People ask me how your routine is
Yeah.
for Everest. So I think people would like to know this. I used to wake up at around 3:30 in the morning, and I was in such a zone. I used to wake up without an alarm. I used to just pop up in my bed full of energy and just bring it on kind of an attitude.
Yeah.
So yes, I used to wake up at 3:30 in the morning, and the morning used to be spent doing some meditation and some breathing exercises, some pranayama, because as I said, this needs to be worked on, because unfortunately in this world now it is in a way getting better, but no, all of us knows, at least theoretically, how to be physically fit. You eat right, you be active,
Yeah.
like that, like it's a very simple thing which we've learned since our school, but nobody tells us how to keep this fit. Not in my school, at least not in my college, at least not at least where I went.
That's true.
Nobody
Yeah.
taught me
They
how to
don't.
keep this fit. Yeah, not even in my house. Like, they used to be like, eat right, exercise, which is good, which is very, very important, obviously. But this goes off track for most people. This is the biggest weapon that we have as human beings. Our mind is what separates us from other creatures on this planet. I'm not saying they're stupid, they're extremely smart for what they are meant to do. But we have this awareness which can, take us to the next level.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this mind, the capabilities of our mind is turning against us. The weapon is firing against you, which you can call it as stress, anxiety, ego, anger, jealousy. But if one knows how to manage this, these things won't happen.
Okay.
But yes, for me, My morning used to be spent doing some meditation, because I understood this one thing very clearly in my mind, that you cannot control your mind unless you understand it. For example, if you want to, I like with an example, this will become clear. If you want to learn to drive a car and if you go to a driving school, you don't ask that driving instructor ki I want to control a car. He'll say, no, 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 you'll have to first understand the basics. What is a gear, what is a clutch, what is, like, how does the steering work, all the basics.
Right.
Similarly, people want to control their minds. They are like, I want to control my mind. No, 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 you idiot, you cannot control your mind unless you understand it. So once you understand the car, the control will automatically happen, right? You don't have to control it, it'll happen. And you can only understand your mind when you become a little still.
Right.
And you become a little still. And once you become still, you can start observing what is happening here. Because, there is a certain way in which our thoughts work. A thought starts, for example, and then how it grows. If we can see that, then we can stop it and use it however we want. And when I used to close my eyes and sit, I used to not do any sophisticated meditation or something. It has its benefits, of course it does, but the basic thing is just to observe your mind, how it works. And once that happened, I used to be able to, manage my mind the way I wanted. And I think this one thing really helped me sort, you know, bring order here,
Okay.
bring clarity here. And yeah, and at around 5:30 or 6 in the morning, I used to leave my house after this for a very, very long trek. uh, I used to hike with around 25-30 kg backpack on my back, like filled with rocks and water jugs, and for around 3.5 to 4 hours, just climbing in the mountains like a crazy man. The villagers there used to, look at me every day, and they used to wonder, who is this boy who, takes so much load up there? What is in the bag? And but I used to enjoy, and eventually they got to know that, oh, I'm preparing for Everest. And uh, so morning used to be spent working on stamina,
Okay.
and evening on strength. So this hiking, and sometimes I used to go running in the mountains in the morning. And in the evening there was a local gym
Okay.
where I used to go to work on my strength part. I used to do some calisthenics, someday maybe functional training, someday CrossFit, someday weight training, or sometimes a combination of all of these. So in the evening, I used to work on this, and after coming home, I used to do around 45 minutes to 1 hour of full body stretching using some yogasanas.
Okay.
This was my daily routine in a way, somehow.
Okay.
So I explained it in a very simplistic way. Obviously, there are a lot of specific things, but that's how a day into my life for Everest used to be like.
Okay. This strict routine that you follow, I mean, it's easy like to do for a while, but you've been doing this for like
Mm.
many years. So how do you keep your mindset
Hmm.
in the zone? Is it hard? Sometimes do you
Yeah.
feel like, not today?
No, people often ask me that whenever they have a goal, they have a dream. For a few days, for a few weeks, or maximum for a few months, they are extremely pumped up, extremely excited about it.
Yeah.
But then the distractions and the lethargy, the inertia in the mind and the body starts to seep in. And, I always say this, that what kept me going personally, I don't know if this might work for anybody else or no, but the goal for me was not only to climb that mountain. Of course, I was working for that, but the goal used to be to enjoy each day. And when I say I used to wake up at 3:30 in the morning every day without an alarm.
Yeah.
Why was that? Because the routine that I was about to follow, the meditation, the run, the hike in the mountains, everything was something I looked forward to. And I realized that unless and until whatever you are doing, each small step, unless and until they are your goal. For example, the next step should be like your ultimate goal for that day. And unless and until you have that kind of intensity for your next step, you might be able to push on for a few days, weeks, or a month or so, but then the lethargy will come in, because you'll say ki, oh, that goal is so far away, and I have, there are so many distractions which are happening around us as well. It is very easy to get deviated, but what worked for me was genuine love, genuine commitment towards what I was doing. I used to love waking up at 3:30 in the morning. I used to love going for hikes. It used to give me a kick. I used to think Everest happens, it does not happen, it's not in my control. But this daily routine, it is enhancing me in ways that I could not imagine. In a span of 2 years that I spent working for Everest, it personally within me, it brought me to a place which I never imagined was possible.
Okay.
So seeing this daily progress within you, this daily progress happening, I got to know, this is what is the real important thing. Because Everest, you'll climb it one fine day, you'll climb it,
Yeah.
then what? But the progress that has happened, that will stay with you forever. And this progress, this positivity that has come within me, this growth that has happened, that is not just limited to me now.
Okay.
Through people like you, and I give a lot of speeches, and I go
Yeah.
and talk to a lot of people. It helps a lot of people who are going through somewhat what I went through in that stage. And I think this gives me the goal to wake up every day and realizing that this is not just about me now. A lot of people are benefiting through my journey, through my story. And that just gives me the kick, and genuine love for everyday process. That's what keeps me going, honest to God.
That's wonderful. Yeah, that's most important. The process is more important than the destination.
Oh yes, always, absolutely.
So, how many mountains have you climbed before you, attempted Mount Everest?
So I started trekking in 2010, as I said, and in 2019 I climbed Mount Everest.
Yeah.
Between that, I in a way have lost a count of how many treks I did in the Sayadris
Okay.
back home in Maharashtra. It must be well over 1500 treks by now. But the significant peaks, if you talk about like the high mountains in the
Yeah.
Himalayas, uh, to name a few, I've climbed. My first peak was Stok Kangri in Ladakh. It's a 20,000 feet high mountain.
Yeah.
I in the next few years after I climbed it for the first time, I was able to climb it for I think 5 or 6 times after that, because I used to stay in Ladakh for my training year after year. So Stok Kangri used to be like a 2-3 days thing where I used to just run up to base camp and next day go up to the summit and come back. So that used to be like a training routine for me. Apart from that, I have climbed Kangyatse 2, Kangyatse 1. I
Okay.
have attempted Bhagirathi 2. I have climbed Friendship Peak in Manali. Bhagirathi 2, I mentioned, I have attempted it. It's in Uttarakhand. I have climbed a peak called BC Roy Peak in Sikkim. Uh, yes, I think, yeah, these are some of the peaks I've climbed. And of course, basic course, advanced course I've done. So
Okay.
that always helps. Yeah.
I know it was in Stok Kangri and where you ended up with altitude sickness and
Oh,
you
yes.
actually thought you will not make it back home.
Oh yes, absolutely. So it was in first year. So sorry, for the first time when I climbed Stok Kangri, it went smoothly. It was in 2015, as I said. It was my first expedition. Next year I was staying in Ladakh, and I was training there. And you know, between Stok Kangri and the next year, I climbed a lot of peaks. Between that, everything went smoothly. Everything I did, I was successful. So I became a little egoistic, a little pompous, I would say. And mountains have a way to show you your place in this
Yeah.
existence. So that happened to me, unfortunately. I would say fortunately, because that slap was needed. Luckily, I did not die there. So what happened was, I went to the base camp in a day, and which is a 3-day trek by itself. First of all, going to the base camp of Stok Kangri.
Okay.
So I skipped all those camps and just marched to the base camp. And what this does is, it does not give your body enough time to acclimatize to the lower oxygen levels.
Right.
I don't know what got into my mind. I thought ki instead of resting for a day or two at the base camp, which also would have been fine if I had gone after that. But I thought no, I'll go just this night. Like I reach the base camp in the evening, I'll rest for a few hours and I leave in the night for the summit. People don't do that, and it's a very stupid thing to do because you start at 11,000 feet from Leh, 16,000 feet पे base camp है, and 20,000 feet पे summit है.
Okay.
So
And no one stopped you?
like there's no authority as such who checks on, yeah, like there are people who are for namesake authority. They are my good friends. I hope they don't see this, but but they don't really stop it. They'll just, yeah. So I left that night, and throughout the night things were going really fine because that energy, that stupid energy was still there within me. But halfway through the night at around 3:30 in the morning, I suppose, I don't know the exact time, I started getting a little headache.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, it happens. Like you are at high altitude, it happens. Push through it. And I pushed through it. So, but the headache started increasing exponentially. Like it was multiplying every second.
Okay.
I started vomiting. This is not a good thing to happen up there. And I started getting very weak, very suddenly, like very fast. After I think 15-20 minutes of this starting, I was not able to walk for more than 5 to 7 steps at a time. I had to get down on my knees and catch a breath and just put my head down on the ground and
Okay.
recover, and then 5 to 7 steps. And it was just like deteriorating too fast. My health, the situation. I realized that something is not okay, but I saw on my left the section called the shoulder. For example, if this is the summit of of Stok Kangri, this is shoulder, so it is very close by.
Okay.
So I saw the shoulder section, which is like a flat place where you can go there and rest. So I thought, okay, let's just reach there. Then let's see. Marched on, somehow made it there, and when I opened my bag on the shoulder, just standing like this, and just bam, I fell like pura, like a tree falls.
Right.
Yeah, luckily I was wearing a nice helmet, so this thing got protected when I fell. But I was just laying there unconscious, out of my mind, and I don't know how I lost track of time. But it was, I guess, after 15-20 minutes when I gained the consciousness again. When I woke up, I did not know where I was.
Okay.
I was thinking I'm in my room, in my home, and I'm feeling cold. I was searching for my AC remote to shut down the AC. Like, honest to God, I was that disoriented. But I felt rocks on the shoulder section, on the floor. I was like, what the hell, man? Then I got up, and under the moonlight, I could see the snow slope and the summit of Stok Kangri. For a few seconds, I freaked out. I was like, what the hell? Where am I? Then the memory started coming back. This was functioning very slow. Then it came back, and I realized I'm at Stok Kangri, and I was getting sick. I had planned to come to the shoulder, and here I am. Then I realized I'm sick. I realized that I need to go down because the only and only immediate cure for high altitude sickness is to go down.
Yeah.
I tried to get up. I was not able to get up. My legs didn't have enough energy. So I freaked out. Like I freaked out. I was very scared. I was very scared because I was very far from the base camp. Like at least 8-9 hours away from the base camp, which is a long way up. And there was nobody on that mountain on that night.
Okay.
But I knew that being here, nothing is going to happen. I'm definitely going to die in a few hours. I need to go down. I need to go down because if I'm stuck up here, then things won't go well for me. So I put my bag on. I took my ice axe in my hand, the ice pick that we use for
Yeah.
climbing. and I just started sliding down on my butt. uh, sliding for a long time. It was a long and a very slow process and a very hurtful process on your butt.
Yeah.
The rocks and snow and everything, and because it's snow, everything gets wet, and you start getting cold, and it's not a pleasant experience to have had. But I throughout the night, throughout the day, I next day I was just crawling, and a lot of crazy things. I hallucinated about the mountains in front of me talking to me, and
Oh,
a lot of such crazy, a lot of such weird visions, experiences happened to me. But it was definitely the high altitude sickness,
yeah.
creating the hallucinations in me. but but like, if I go deep into those experiences to explain them, it's some of them are very freaky to listen to. but eventually I made it back to the base camp, and there's this final patch where you walk towards the base camp.
Okay.
I saw this one guy who was going to washroom, and he saw me, and that's when I knew that I'm safe. My body, my mind completely gave up, and I just passed out, because I knew now that he has seen me, he'll bring help. And I'm like, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So I woke up, I think 16, 18 hours later the next day. They had put me on oxygen, and they had given me some injections, and
My God.
it was a crazy thing.
Did you face any physical injury or any,
No, not nothing physical except a few bruises, but
okay. That's good.
bruises are like, yeah, extremely lucky. And I woke up next day absolutely fine, like just how I am right now, absolutely ecstatic and pumped up. Next day, everything was okay. Because the thing is, when you come down low in the altitude, you get more oxygen, and oxygen is like life. Oxygen is life, like people know that, but we realized it up there.
Yeah.
Just getting enough oxygen, it revives you. And that's why people say breathe fully. People breathe too shallow, and if you breathe properly, full deep breaths, if you get enough oxygen to your system, it just will take you to the next level, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And I just realized this up there. So much important oxygen is, you are up there or down here. Breathe right. And yes, so this one thing happened, and it just showed me my place, uh my ego, how little it is. And after that, the whole perception for me about the mountains changed. I became like this towards the mountains, and not like this.
Right. Yeah. Nature has its ways of teaching us.
As its ways, absolutely.
So you're on the mountain shoulder and you wake up after you passed out for, you have obviously no idea for how many hours, and you start freaking out. What, I mean, how did you calm yourself? Were there any techniques that you relied on to, okay, gather your mind and, we need to get back alive?
Yeah. So as I said, when I was up there, when I regained my consciousness at 20,000 feet almost, I thought I was in my room. I
Yeah.
was that disoriented, searching for my AC remote. And when I got out of that whole zone, when I realized what was happening, and between that, when I woke up and when I realized, between that, a lot of confusing things were going through my mind. For example, I've never shared this with anyone. At least I don't think so.
Okay.
That when I woke up, as I said, I felt rocks. I also felt the snow, which was wet.
Yeah.
I thought, man, did I pee in my bed or what? I was thinking these things. I was so disoriented, and then I woke up, and I saw the view around me. That's when I realized. But absolutely, as you said, I did freak out. I was absolutely scared that I'm sick. There was no one with me, but there are no techniques except getting in touch with absolute reality of the situation,
Okay.
that this is where you are, this is what is happening to you, and this is what you need to do. There are no other options, no other solutions, no other tools, techniques for your solace. Just understanding the reality and taking the steps accordingly was the only thing which brought me back on track, thinking clearly about things I need to do. And years of climbing mountains gave me this. When I realized what was wrong, immediately what needs to be done immediately started coming into my mind.
Okay.
And just being in touch with reality, that is the ultimate thing anyone can do whenever they are freaking out, whatever in their lives. Just bring yourself back, anchor yourself within you, and look at it. Look at the situation you are in, whatever you are in, and just realistically see where you are, what needs to be done, and then
Okay.
do it. It is as simple as that. People complicate it too much while just by just imagining things. What if that happens? What if that happens? All these things will only get you off track. These are just imaginations. They are not based on reality. Ground yourself to reality, and life would become frictionless from within. And that's how I did it up there, getting back. Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah. Was the training for Everest even more arduous? Was it even more difficult than your training for your other mountains? Where, like, did you have self doubt?
Of course, because as I said, I had so Everest is the highest peak in the world, and the training for that is also of that level. And I had not climbed any mountains of that height before that, so obviously it was a very new thing for me. But I went step by step towards it, right? So I started trekking in the Sayadris. I
Yeah.
trained myself for the Sayadris first. Then I trained myself for the courses. Then I trained myself for the expeditions. And when I was at this level, then I elevated myself to Everest training. So it was all a step by step process. And I think if you go step by step, you know, that's always better rather than just from
Yeah.
nothing to jumping through something. So for me, that the whole transition throughout happened very smoothly. But yeah, in terms of what was happening within me, like for example, this the one thing which stopped me the most, which gave me doubts in some sense, I would say, was the fundraising part, because it costs bare minimum of 25 to 30 lakh rupees to climb Mount Everest. Me being me, I 20 to 23-year old, no idea about the business world, no idea about the finance world, nothing, no mentors to guide me through this. I did what I knew best, which was not enough, obviously. I spoke to around 150 companies personally
Okay.
in a span of 2 years. As I said, I used to stay 2 hours away from Mumbai in the Sayadri Hills in Karjat, near Karjat. Traveling from there after my morning routine, I used to wake up at 3:30, as I said, and then the long run or a long hike,
Yeah.
then coming back home, making food for myself, and then leaving for these fundraising meetings in Mumbai local train. 2 hours you are going, 2 hours you are traveling to some company or some government office, and only to be shot down brutally, not even compassionately, because for everybody this idea of me wanting to climb Everest was absolutely stupid and absolutely senseless, and nobody was ready to believe in me, especially the corporate people, because they don't want to hear what I had to say. They wanted to hear numbers. They wanted to hear returns, which is absolutely right from their perspective. But I knew nothing of that sort, so I made a lot of such mistakes. I learned from it, obviously, but it was too late by then. I lost a lot of contacts which I had gathered
Okay.
by making mistakes. In the government, the state government of Maharashtra, I used to go to Mantralaya practically every day to seek help. After 6 months of going every day, almost traveling 2 hours to and fro after my training, between my training, morning and evening used to be my training. Between that, I used to go.
Okay.
Whenever I used to go there, I used to be again shot down in very weird ways. Sometimes they used to lose my application. Sometimes they used to say, "Where is this paper? Where is that paper?" and this and that. They used to keep me running around in the Mantralaya from this office to that office. And 6 months after this happening, 6 months after to and fro of just complete mental shatterment, like
Yeah.
I was in Mantralaya and they again lost my application for the sixth time. So the process is you give the application, it goes through a process, it gets approved, and then you get the fund. It's not as simplistic as I'm saying, but
Okay.
that's how it is. It should be, but it's not. But after this happening, so the sports minister was there. I went to him, and I'm not afraid of sharing this story because people need to know this. I went to him that, sir, why are you guys not supporting me? Here I am, trying to represent my city, my state, my country on the world's highest mountain. And here, like, and I'm having to travel since the last 6 months for 2 hours every day. And like, what is happening? He sat me down and he told me, Parth, we don't consider mountaineering as a sport and we don't consider you mountaineers as athletes. For us, sports is only what is in Olympics right now. For them, they were only supporting athletes and games who are into Olympics. You are not into Olympics, they said, and that's why I'm not an athlete. That's what they said, and I just was so shattered from within. And there's a place called Marine Drive
Yeah.
near Mantralay. I went there. It was sunset time, and I just cried my eyes out. I was so shattered from within that. Why are people not believing in me? Are they seeing something in me that I might be lacking that I'm not able to see? Because here I am grinding my ass off every day, doing what is absolutely needed, and I knew I'm on the right track. This is the way to go about it. But why is nobody around me believing in me? And when nobody around you believes in you, that's when you start questioning yourself in a very negative way.
True.
Questioning yourself is a very good thing if you do it in a constructive way. But what happened with me, I started doubting myself. And unfortunately for most people who have not worked on their minds and their energies, this self doubt can, you know turn them into a very crazy spiral, and they can go very off track, and I've seen this happen. But for me, how I used to manage this was, I knew this one fact, that only the input is something I can control. The output is not 100% in my control.
Yeah.
As long as I do my work in a smart manner, and hard work and smart work needs to go hand in hand. If that is not happening, things won't happen for you. I knew that what I need to do, I'll bloody do it. What needs to be done, nobody can stop me from that. That is in my control. The output, maybe not this year, maybe next year it will happen. So this one reality check, again a reality check, that you cannot control the output, but the input nobody else can control. This bloody kept me going. I caught that local. I went to the gym that very day again. I was like, no, nobody in this world has the right to get me down, and that's a choice you make. That's
Yeah.
a choice. People blame other people that you know this happened to me because of you. No, no, no. They did that, but you allowed it to get into your head. You allowed it to get you into that spiral. And yeah, that's how I, managed the self doubt which was within me. And the funds, yeah. How it actually happened was, how I was able to raise the funds was through crowdfunding, 50% of the amount through crowdfunding.
Yeah.
My friends, my family, my well wishers, my followers, these were the people who had seen my struggles, my journey, my obsession with Mount Everest. They were like, this is what we can give, go climb that mountain. Somebody gave me 500 rupees, whereas somebody gave me 5 lakh rupees, and this is how it happened. 50% of the amount. Parallelly, I was also earning through my company and through various things I do. Through that, I was saving up something. So
Okay.
that added up, and the remaining amount my father थोड़ा उनके savings से दिया उन्होंने मुझे, and the remaining we had to take a huge loan of around 8-9 lakh rupees, which I'm still repaying. Me and my father took that loan, and it was in the last 1 month when we were still short of funds, and my father came in and he was like, let's just get the money and send you there, things will happen. And it helps a lot when your parents are behind you as your support, as your pillar of strength.
Yeah.
And yes, this is how I was able to raise the funds. And people often ask me this question, how to raise the funds. There is no one answer to it. You have to find your way. One thing, for if someone who wants to climb Everest is listening to this, and if you want to raise the funds, get very practical advice. Get right kind of contacts, and go only through contacts if you're going to a company or to the government world, because without that you are just the crowd. The contact up there can maybe pull you up a little bit, and then things can happen. Obviously there is a lot to go, lot into it, but this is one thing you can do. Yeah.
When you start climbing Mount Everest, do you let that weigh in your mind? Okay, so many people have, put their money on this. I cannot fail.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very, very good question. And this, I would like to answer this question with a story, with an incident that happened to me while I was on Mount Everest. Before I went to Everest, Everest for me was like, uh, you know, a big thing. I was obsessed with Everest, and it's the highest peak in the world and goal of my life, and this and that. Obviously, it was elevated in my mind beyond a certain limit. But when I saw Everest for the first time in front of me, I saw it for what it is. What is it? It is just a pile of rock and ice. It is just a stupid pile of rock and ice. It is nothing more than that. It is a mountain just like any other mountain. If you think it's the highest peak in the world, then you'll freak out. Then you'll do stupid things under the pressure. Again, grounding yourself to reality. That's what I did when I got to the mountain. And yes, this one incident happened to me when I was up on Everest during our summit push. Between advanced base camp and camp 1, there is this ice wall called as North Col. It's 1,000 feet high wall made up of full blue ice, and at 7,000 meters, you are already, the oxygen saturation in the air is already 50% or lesser in the atmosphere. You are struggling with each breath. And I had climbed this wall once before for our acclimatization rotations. When we went up to acclimatize, now we are going towards the summit.
Okay.
On this wall, things were not going good for me. I was extremely slow, I was extremely lethargic, and I was feeling extremely sick. And I was just extremely slow. I reached
Okay.
somehow at Camp 1 3 hours after the slowest person reached. Was having a real bad day. And everybody has a bad day on the mountains, and we hope that that bad day comes when you are as low as possible. So luckily that day came to me when I was relatively lower down. But I reached that camp, and I told my climbing partner Kuntal that I'm not feeling well, and if I don't feel well tomorrow morning, I'm going back down. And I was just 1.5 days away from the top of the world, from a 9 year long dream. And I was just sitting in my camp thinking about what I just said to Kuntal. I started, asking the right kind of questions, which people do up there, Ki, I've trained so much for this. I have raised so much money for this. For me, I have taken so much loan for this, which I was banking on that if I climb Everest through various means, I would be able to repay. Without me climbing, there was no way to repay that loan. That pressure was still there on my head. All these things were there. But on the
Yeah.
other side, I asked this one question: are you willing to die for these things? for your loan, for your success, for these stupid things? Are you willing to die for it? And once I asked these questions, there was no doubt in my mind. I was willing to go down just 1.5 days away from the summit. And this is what is needed in people who go to climb mountains. They take unnecessary risks, unfortunately, due to the social pressure or financial pressure or personal ambition pressure that they have, that oh, you're just there, just push. No, you idiot, you'll die if you push when you are at this state of your health.
Yeah.
So there was no doubt in my mind. Luckily, the next day I was feeling much better, so I continued on. But I'm very sure if I was not feeling good, I would have gone down, because the mountain is there since millions of years, is gonna be there for millions of years. You, on the other hand, you are just a small pop-up. Where you are a bloody mortal being. Take care of yourself. Be
Yeah.
smart about it. Go back home and come back next time. It's okay. पैसा हो जाएगा, ट्रेनिंग हो जाएगी, जान है तो, जान नहीं है तो फिर तो मतलब, yeah, if you're not alive.
It's true. Yeah. How does it feel when climbers you're rubbing shoulders with 1 minute, next minute uh, have died?
Yeah.
I mean, I know that's happened with you.
uh, so just to uh, set a little context here for our listeners, while so when you go for an expedition like Everest, people you start your expedition with may not be the people you end the expedition with. Some people might, some subtraction might happen. That might be you as well. That's not, never forget that might be you as well. But so when I was going up on Everest, on the last section before the summit, I saw around 16 dead bodies throughout the night.
My God.
People die on Everest, and you cannot recover a body because helicopter does not fly that high. And to recover a body, you need at least 15 to 16 strong Sherpas, who in turn will risk their lives
Yeah.
to recover a dead body. So that's not a smart thing to do, as harsh as it might sound. We don't do that. So the bodies are still lying there for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years. They're still there. And they are going to be there for the eternity at least. They'll become a part of the mountain someday. So you see these things out there, and it's a crazy reality check. Like I used to stand at each and every one of those bodies and just look at them. I know this might freak a lot of people out, but I have to just look at them. I realized I saw myself in them. In what sense? That they also used to be just as ambitious, maybe just as strong, just as driven as me. Something wrong happened. They made one little mistake. See what happened.
Yeah.
And this is what will happen to me if I make that one little mistake. So I promised myself, not even one mistake. You need to be absolutely mindful about each and every step that you take. And after that, you become a little more aware about each and every action that you perform. And yeah, for me, things up there went really smoothly that night. Nothing really happened to me. I was feeling really energetic. I was really fast. While coming back down after I submitted Everest, I was ecstatic and blissed out, and everything. Obviously, 9-year long dream came true. But while I was coming down, there's this section called as Step 2. It's a huge rock wall of around 180 feet.
Okay.
We were coming back down, and the guy who was coming after me, he, on a 90-degree wall, he got upside down, like head down, like hands down, and legs up. पूरा उल्टा हो गया.
Oh,
And I was like, how did you do that? Like, how did this even happen to you? But he was not responding to us. He panicked for a bit. He was trying to pull himself back up, but he was unable to. He was He was trying to hold on to the ropes on the side, which from which he can pull himself back up, but he didn't have enough strength left in him to do that. Uh, 3 4 minutes after this happening, he stopped moving, and yeah, we realized that he is no more. Just like that,
My God.
this man, who was a human being a few minutes ago, a few seconds ago, has departed. And what do you do in such a time? What do you feel? What do you think? I was not even able to understand what do I feel here? What do I think? This completely numb. It was like my brain was somebody was squeezing it like this. That numbness feeling was just sat down for a few minutes, and me and my Sherpa, we could do nothing. And that feeling of helplessness, it never really goes away. Even today, it's like now it's been a year. Uh, but when you sometimes when in the night, if this thought, this visual, this feeling of helplessness, when it comes into my mind sometimes, that's the end of my sleep. No more sleep for me that night. And it just eats you up from within, because yeah, that helplessness is something I wish nobody in this world ever should go through.
Yeah.
Like it's not a cup of tea for everybody to handle that. It can break a person. I can imagine it can break a person. For somebody who has not worked enough within themselves, it can break them, it can shatter them, and it can spiral them down within themselves. It's a but yes, every day, but with just a little sense of understanding, you try to come out of it. uh, and very weirdly, these things never stop me from going again back to the mountains, because death is something which is going to come to you.
Yeah.
And I always, whenever I speak about death, which people are, don't talk about death, shub shub bolo, you should not talk about these things. But no, this is the ultimate reality of life. Sun rises to set, you are born to die. What you
Yeah.
do in between, that matters. The people, only the people who are afraid to die are the people who are not living their life fully. If you don't live fully, then you'll be afraid of dying. But if you live fully, even for a moment, death will be a welcome thing for you. And it is a welcome thing for me. I live my life with this awareness that next second could be my last. And what I'm doing right now, will I regret this when I'm about to die? And whenever the answer is no, I try to change that. And whenever the answer is yes, I know I'm on the right track. And for 99% of the things I do in my life, the answer is always yes. And yeah, if you yeah, that's how I try to cope up with the idea of death.
Okay. When you finish climbing a mountain and you come back, do you find a disconnect with the urban life?
I'm very glad that you asked this question, because not a lot of people are interested in what happens after you come back. Everybody is interested in what happened on the bloody mountain. Obviously, that is exciting for people. But what happened to me after I came back from Everest was people around me, except my family, my friends, my everybody I knew. Basically, I won't go into the relations because there are so many, but everybody that I knew, from my cousins to everyone, they started behaving differently around me, because in their vision, I was elevated up to a level. Now they thought of me as a,
Okay.
some people say I'm a celebrity, some people say I'm an influencer, and some people say you are, like you are an inspiration for the youth, and this and that. And these are the changes that started happening externally around me. Within me, I was still the same person who was, before Everest. If I had spoken to you, I would have said these exact same things, but nobody cared to listen to me then. So this attention around me was one thing that happened, which I did not particularly like, because I like to, stay in my little bubble of myself. But I saw that, people, I understand it, because I used to do the same things with every other Everest climber, right? So so when so I realized it. Okay, so this is something that I need to do. And
Yeah.
I started sharing what was. within me, the experiences, the learnings, and everything. But this one other thing was happening within me, which was 9 year of a goal, 9 year of a dream. From the age of 15 to 24, the most prominent years of somebody's life was spent for me for Mount Everest. Now it was done.
Yeah.
And now there was no fuel in my life. I was like, now what do I do? Okay, mountains, so many mountains are still left to climb, which I'm gonna do. But the next goal that I had in my mind for for a mountain, that was not giving me that fuel that I had before Everest. And I got completely lost, directionless, in a deep, deep, deep pit within myself. I started getting, you know, emotionally unstable, I would say. Started getting angry on people around me for no good reason, and crazy things started happening within me.
Okay.
Then I realized this one thing again. Then another reality check happened. Whatever friction happens within us is only and only because we are not aligned to our reality, to the reality that is actually out there. And once you see it, that is the end of friction. And I saw this one reality that, oh, you were seeking for a lifelong of well-being through an external goal which can be achieved in a span of time. For some people, it might be money. For some people, it might be getting a car or a house or a job or a post. While we are working towards it, we work towards it with this hope that once I get there, I would be happy. I would be satisfied. My life would be nice. Then everything is gonna go
Yeah.
smoothly for me. But reality is something else. We all know this. Once you get to that dream job of yours, you see how horrible your boss is, how horrible your colleagues are, what nonsense politics happens within you. Then you start thinking, no, I'll work for a year in this company and then I'll go to that company and then things will be better. So I realized that this is what I was doing for myself. I realized, no, this is not the way for a permanent fulfillment, for a permanent well-being of existence. And then I turned within again, and I realized that you have to work on your inner self with just as intensity, with just as with just as intensely as you work on the outside. And this sync was not there inside and outside world. And once this sync came, yeah, and of course the transition after I came back from Everest.
Okay.
Uh, Mumbai is a place where I've spent most of my life, so I knew how it was, what to expect, and this one story I would like to share with you, how the actual transition happened when I got back to the city of Kathmandu from Everest, because I got back home after 3-4 days of staying in Kathmandu. When we summited Everest, when we got back down to base camp, we were just done with the mountain.
Okay.
All the good and the bad things that had happened up there, I was just done with it. Just we all just wanted to go back to Kathmandu, to the city, and I got into my room. I switched on the light, and it was just so comfortable. Everything. I saw the bloody bed, the bed which we take for granted,
Yeah.
and I put my bag down. I went in the washroom. I opened the tap, flowing water. Out here in the city, the flowing water, we take it for for so much granted. Like out there, it is so cold and everything, and here it is. And I took the longest bath of my life, with warm water falling on my head, and I slept like at least 12, 13 hours. And I was constantly for the first 2 days thinking, these luxuries that we have set up for ourselves in the world, in the city, we take it for
Yeah.
granted, and it is very natural to take for granted, because most people in this world have not seen what is the other side of this. And that's where I try to bring people to the outdoors so they can see the life in a larger perspective, and not just in the bubble that they are stuck in, not in the keyhole vision that they have. And once you have a peripheral
Yeah.
vision of where you are, how privileged you are, then you start being grateful. You won't have to make efforts in being grateful. It'll come from within you, that there are people out there who have so less than what I do, and now I have no excuses to not be happy, to not be satisfied. Like, we don't have any excuses to say that.
That's true. Yeah. Why is climbing important for you?
Why is climbing important for me? Well, I've been trying to find this answer since a very long time, and I have not been able to yet. Maybe someday when we do a podcast again, I will.
Yeah.
But it's about the whole experience, the whole journey. As I said, everything which takes me up to the mountain, and also obviously the mountains. The whole process is something I absolutely love. Every day pushing yourself beyond what you think is possible, and through that the kind of personal growth that happens right now, that gives me the kick. So I'm training for Annapurna peak right now, which is one of the most
Yeah.
difficult peak in the world to climb. People ask me, why the hell do you want to do this? There's a 1 in 3 chance that you might not come back. But I'm like, okay, those two people who come back, you know life for them after that can never be the same again. And if you become ready for a peak like Annapurna, the kind of transformation which happens within you, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, if that transition happens, like, that's what gives me the kick right now. The whole process which I'm going to go through for Annapurna, that's going to again take me to the next level. And of course, being in the mountains, it's such a privilege. Yeah, it's such a beautiful place to be in. The air is pure.
Yeah.
There is no noise. You are just by yourself, absolute solitude. You are uncomfortable yet so comfortable within you. I just love climbing mountains, and I hope maybe in the future I am better able to articulate this answer, because I'm still searching for the truth about why I climb mountains. And maybe there is no truth which can be put into words. Maybe it's just the whole experience which cannot be explained.
Okay.
This reminds me of one very famous saying in our field. Somebody asked uh, George Mallory, he's a pioneer in our field, that why do you climb mountains? He took a pause, and he said, because it's there. Because it's there, you climb the mountain. अगर नहीं होता तो नहीं करते. And also the same guy said, if you have to ask this question, why do I climb mountains? You'll never know the answer. If you ask this question, you can never know the answer. It is in the experience. Unless you go there, you won't feel it. And let's see, I'm trying to get better clarity about why I climb mountains more than this, so that I'm able to articulate it better. Maybe maybe in the future. Let's see.
When is your attempt at Annapurna?
So I will be leaving for my Annapurna expedition on 24th March 2021.
Okay.
Today is 18th September. I don't know when people will watch this. Maybe after 5-10 years, if you are watching, I might have climbed Annapurna, hopefully. but I'll be leaving next year. 185 days left before I leave. 183 days left before I leave. So I'm training every day, working very hard.
And that too, you're trying to do it without oxygen supplement.
Absolutely, I'm gonna be attempting Annapurna without the use of additional supplementary oxygen, and
Yeah.
because of that, I'm going through a very specifically, scientifically planned routine, a physical routine, and a diet plan for me to be able to be capable of doing that. That is something I know I'll be able to pull it off if weather supports me out there. Me won't be a problem up there. And I'm not saying with any sense of ego or pompousness. When you know yourself, you know yourself. It is as simple as that. And the other thing I'm working on right now is the fundraising part. Unfortunately, again, I have not been able to raise the complete amount for Annapurna. So I was gonna go to Annapurna in March 2020 itself, this year.
Okay. Yeah, but because of the COVID.
Yes, because of the COVID pandemic, I could not go. So the funds that was remaining, I was gonna take a loan again. So the Everest loan I'm still repaying. उसके ऊपर से I was gonna take Annapurna loan again, and I just knew that I need to keep the boat sailing. Things will happen. Luckily, I have time now to not take a loan and to raise the funds. I'm still struggling because now, especially in the pandemic times,
Yeah.
asking for contributions from people or asking for sponsorship is a very cruel thing to do. So let's see. I'm working as much as I can. So let's see with uh, all of your support and blessings. Hopefully, I'll be able to make it.
I hope so. Yeah. I hope it all comes around and you successfully scale the summit and come
Thank you
back.
so much. Thank you. Means a lot to me. Thank you.
I know your goal is to scale all 14 over 8,000 meters mountains.
Right.
Do you have like a certain deadline by when you want to do it, or just take it as it goes?
No deadline because the thing is there are so each 8,000-meter mountain is an challenge like Everest by itself. And when you are on an expedition of an 8,000-meter mountain, there are a lot of things which are not in your control. I know of people who have spent 6 7 years trying to just climb one mountain.
Oh,
'Cause, sometimes the weather goes bad, sometimes health problems, sometimes logistical problems, and you never know how much time it would take you to climb one mountain. How do you know 14 mountains? So I just one mountain at a time. And but yes, I do have short goals. For example, Annapurna is my next. So no matter what happens, loan lege to loan leg, I'm gonna go. Then after that, I another peak. So that's how I'll try to progress in this direction.
that's very nice. Thanks so much, Parth, for taking the time.
Most welcome.
I really appreciate it. I know you. I know you have a very rigid, routine to.
Yeah, I'm gonna go now for my evening run. Yeah, it's 5:30. I'll go for
Oh,
my evening run now.
that's great. Yeah. Thank you so much
Thank
once
you so
again.
much for inviting me on your show.
If you enjoyed this week's episode, do subscribe to Maharani Talks. It's available on Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Castbox, and Stitcher. See you.